Hello and welcome to People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marere. Less than 48 hours from now, there will be a change of guards at the White House in Washington, D.C. 4 years of the Trump administration will come to a fitting end and usher in the Joe Biden era as the 46th president of the United States. Some analysts say Trump's 4 years in the saddle was a disaster for Africa. Not only did he disrespect Africa, but was very disdainful of the continent, calling African states shithole countries. Many observers say Trump's focus was mainly in 3 areas: competition with China for influence in Africa, reduction of emphasis on counter-terrorism, and imposition of multiple travel bans and restrictions on some countries. He also signed a decree curtailing citizens from Nigeria, Eritrea, Sudan, and Tanzania from obtaining permanent resident status in the U.S. But will the Biden inauguration be a defining new era in U.S.-African relations? Will he reset U.S. relationship with Africa after the Trump fiasco? Can and will Biden change the perception that Africa is only a pawn in the big powers game? Will he help address the economic, political, and social aspects of the many conflicts on the continent? Biden has promised a return to multilateralism in the conduct of international relations. How is that likely to impact Africa? He has so far appointed at least 3 persons of Nigerian descent into his cabinet. How significant is this in rebuilding ties with Africa? Will Biden treat Africa with civility, with dignity and respect, as opposed to Trump's denigration of the African continent? Will he keep to his pledge to prioritize democratization as a foreign policy objective following the decline in democratic governance across the continent in recent years? What possible challenges is this administration likely to face in dealing fairly with Africa? And very importantly, what is Africa bringing to the table with Biden's America? These and more we shall explore with our panel of experts when we return very shortly. Join us. All right, thank you for staying with us. Let's get to meet our panelists, 2 of them here in the studio, and a 3rd member of the panel will be joining us virtually via Zoom from Nsukka at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. But first, our panelists who are in the studio. First, from my immediate left is Chris Ayamu. Chris Ayamu is the Executive Director, Global Advocacy for African Affairs. Thank you so much, Chris.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We're also joined by Professor Kamar Bello. Professor Bello teaches political science and international relations at the National Open University of Nigeria here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Professor Bello, thank you so much.
Good afternoon.
For joining us. And soon we will be joined virtually via Zoom from Nsukka by Dr. Michael Ugweze. Dr. Ugweze also teaches political science at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Well, as soon as he's ready, we will be having Dr. Michael Ugweze join us. But gentlemen, welcome. Let me begin with you, Dr. Bello. First, let me ask you what you think of the Biden and Kamala Harris ticket that will be inaugurated on Wednesday as the 46th President of the United States?
There are circumstances that brought the two of them in. It's interesting. And it's a display of American sense of democracy. Because the party ideology, the Democratic Party ideology, is on equality, gender balancing, no discrimination, and making sure that every human being is treated as human being. No religious, no tribal sentiments. That's the ideology of Democratic Party in the US. And that was displayed when the campaign was on. Even when Trump was trying to truncate the result of the election. Definitely. At the end of the day, the swearing in of Biden will come in, which shows definitely that America is truly a democracy. Initially, if you look at the comments from Nigerians, they were thinking it's like our environment, whereby, oh, with Trump there, being the head of state or the president, he has every power, he can manipulate and do everything. Unfortunately for him, American system, American individual, they are committed, they are patriotic, they are nationalistic. So they made sure that what the forefathers stood for is maintained. And
unlike what we just saw in Uganda.
Yes, justice. They make sure that justice stands. Election is won, no manipulation. Even some individual resigned because of an attempt to truncate the democracy. That no, this is not what America is known for. And you see the invasion of the Capitol. At the end of the day, Trump is facing another impeachment to show that democracy is working. Even in the House, you will see Republicans changing camp that no, we cannot truncate our country because of an individual or because of interest. Unlike us here, as you have said, unlike Africa, a big man is there who exercises power, the coercive power. He can manipulate, he can use money, he can use threat, and people will succumb, but not Americans.
Chris, we are having in going to the White House for the first time, a female vice president and a female who is of black and Indian descent. Yeah, how is that likely to impact on relations between the United States and other nations of the world?
Thank you very much, Imoni. First of all, please permit me to use this opportunity to pay a glowing tribute to one of the voices of justice that has existed in the United States of America, talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Today is Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, and a lot of people are not aware. So I think he's one person that is worth celebrating. And the fact that we are also discussing American politics on this very day, and for me, it's not just a coincidence, but it tells a lot about the country America and then their influence in the global community and what it stands for. It's interesting. Biden-Harris ticket, just like you noted, is one experience that has never been. The first woman in the White House, and again the first black woman in the White House. But again, sometimes I feel I don't feel so fascinated discussing the issues of American politics or American relations as it concerns Africa. And I'll tell you my reasons quickly. Time and over again, whenever a US president, emerge, there's always this euphoria in Africa. There's always this celebration as if another African president has emerged. But over time,
the way we celebrated the Obama emergence.
Exactly. What we've seen over time is a continuous display of disinterest and disdain for African democracy. And it didn't just start with Trump. A lot of people felt Trump is the monster of time. Trump is one person we never wanted in the White House. But we've had our own brother, Barack Obama, who was there before Trump. And there was no difference, so to say, by my estimation. And a lot of people will also tell you that if anything, that it was even a worse experience for Africa. And what we have continually seen is a general attitude that continues to embolden autocratization in Africa by these US leaders. Don't forget, the man we are talking about, Biden, deputized Obama. And during Obama, we witnessed 11 so-called African strongmen leaders had their way during Obama. And this had been, the usual experience with almost all American presidents. Because they come here, they are attracted in the first place, to our extractive industry potentials. In the process, they embolden the so-called strongmen leaders in Africa. And we witnessed 11 of them in the 8 years of Obama presidency. They killed thousands of innocent civilians and displaced millions. And it wasn't troubling enough for the President of the United States of America. And here we are again, expecting that a miracle is going to happen under Biden presidency. I don't think so much is going to happen. In any case, we are always forced into thinking that Democrats are closer to the African Americans, or even Africans as a whole. But history has shown otherwise. Clinton was a Democrat, and we didn't see much of Clinton. In fact, if anything, George W. Bush showed more commitment. I hope we don't forget the PEPFAR in a hurry, the Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS relief. This man committed over 80 billion at the last count, and about 15 million Africans were saved.
Clinton
and
came with AGOA.
Yes, Clinton came with AGOA.
Which is still running, and we're on
which is still running
2025.
But
before it's reviewed.
But how far has AGOA been funded? In the days, almost in the 4 years of Trump, you said, which is the channel to reach out to some of these African countries, was almost starved of resources. So it is not in the initiative. It is in the will. It is in the capacity to fund, to finance this initiative to meet the purpose for which they were meant to meet. So I am not one person who is always so fascinated about a U.S. president, about a U.S. president emerging, because history have shown to us that, in any case, the U.S. foreign policy agenda is so crowded. Asia is there, so you are not the only person there, and we have 4 years. We have 4 years to meet all these obligations. So if the man does not get a second tenure, I doubt if anything different is going to happen in Africa. So I think it's time we begin to de-emphasize, the kind of euphoria that follows the election of an American president, thinking that is the Messiah we've been waiting for in Africa. It's time we begin to look inwards and see how Africans can evolve domestic solutions to African problems, and then leave these people alone. Like you noted in your intro, these people, in most cases, they are much more comfortable seeing us as pawns in the competition of great power, global great powers. And that was exactly what Trump did during his tenure, especially as regards China. So it is not really so much of what Africa is going to benefit from the Biden presidency. I am not, like I said, I am not one person who is always so fascinated about what Africa is going to benefit, because if you have to look back to history, we will realize that it has been all the same.
All right, Professor Bello, now his position is that, look, we should not jump for joy too early. And that the American foreign policy is a continuum, whether it's Republican, whether it's Democrat, or whatever, is the same. It just maybe in terms of style that we see a bit of a difference here and there, like we saw during the Trump administration. Now, is there a likelihood that we might see something different this time around? Do you sense that the Biden administration may have picked one or two things from the failures of the Obama administration and will want to rectify them? And like you said, 4 years, a short time.
Life is dynamic, changing. The concept of change alone is enough euphoria. That Trump is no more there, Republicans no more there, psychologically. That change alone is something. Secondly, when Obama was there, when we say the foreign policy of America is the same, only style, there are certain decisions and policy made by Trump that was not there during Obama. Trump said he doesn't want the Mexicans to be coming into America. He was to make a wall. It was not there before. He introduced it. Selecting countries like Nigeria that they cannot get permanent permit. It is an initiation of Trump. It's not there permanently in American policy or foreign policy. Advantage that Biden has, he has been in Senate for a long time. And he has been heading Committee on Foreign Affairs and Diplomacy. And he wrote a lot of materials to back up his thinking, to show that he is in tandem with diplomacy and foreign affairs. So definitely, coming in with that background of being chairman of committee in the Senate for a long time on foreign affairs, he was with Obama. He will have understood what Obama had done, the mistakes they have committed, and will be ready to make a correction. So we cannot say in totality that American policy is static. It depends on the leader who is there. Are you getting it? Trump showed it in 4 years. There are certain things that Trump did that is not permanent in American policy. And we believe we have hope. No matter how minute, no matter how small, there will be a difference between a Republican leadership and Democratic leadership.
So what we are saying, in fact, is that if Trump could do so much damage in 4 years,
yes,
so much can also be done in 4 years by the Biden administration.
Then in addition to that, we cannot continue to blame Americans for our wars. Every foreign policy is determined by domestic policy. What is our domestic policy as Africans? What is our domestic policy as Nigeria? It's one crisis to another, causing one thing or the other, and so on and so forth. We cannot, even in America, the government cannot be feeding the citizen free of charge. We are not moving the way we should. We have raw materials agreed that other people are exploiting. Our raw materials look like a cost because it's not useful. Up to today, since independence, since the creation of Nigeria, we cannot process ordinary mango or orange. 50% of what we produce is damaged. It becomes wastage and we throw them away. Yam, the same thing. We have food, but no preservation. For years, with our universities of technology, with our university of agriculture, we cannot preserve what we have. So we don't even have food security. So there are minor things that we need to do domestically that we are not doing, that we expect foreigners to come and do for us, which is wrong, which is it's not even possible. There are certain things we need to do, we are not doing. Nigeria, for example, now, no integration up to now, 60 years after independence. We are still looking as if we are different nations. We shouldn't be. Ordinary integration we cannot do. In the political science class, we do ask the question, what problem, single problem of Nigeria have we, the elites, solved? Rather, we are creating more. Science mind, scientific mind, technology mind, we don't have. 6334 system of education should have helped us in terms of science and technology. We threw it somewhere, we politicize it. The level of corruption does not make anything to work. During the COVID, during the lockdown, the pandemic, we expect online lectures to go on. Most of our public universities cannot operate simple online lectures. Simple. What is the technology in webinar? Now they said they should resume on the 18th. Some are still dragging their leg. That on the 25th. HASU is even complicating the problem. Universities are not ready. 1 year after COVID-19, since February, we are still not ready. We should have put our acts together that this pandemic may go on and it has entered phase 2. We should have provided for all these online lectures. HASU is saying that universities don't even have provision for online lectures. We are talking of simple online lecture in the 21st century. Our university cannot do. So how do we now move? We cannot be putting, there are some things we need to do domestically. Our domestic policy is faulty. So definitely, our foreign policy cannot be up to standard. And other countries of the world may not be able to respect us. Even if they give us foreign aid. At the end of the day, we will not see what the money is used for. Even this vaccine that we are talking about of COVID now, by the time it will come, we will not see where they are going into.
All right, we're happy to have Dr. Michael Ogweze join us now. Dr. Ogweze is a lecturer in political science at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Thank you so much, Dr. Ogweze, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Right. Very many analysts say that over the years, administration after administration, what we have experienced from the U.S., the United States of America, is at best benign neglect of African affairs. But some are expressing some hope now that with the Biden-Kamala Harris administration coming in on Wednesday, there might be some change. Of course, already we have seen a situation where 3 Nigerians have been, people of Nigerian descent, that is, have been invited to join the Biden administration. Is this likely to make any difference in terms of foreign policy towards Africa by the Biden administration?
Thank you very much, the moderator. What we need to understand very clearly is that foreign policies of countries that are serious are not for the Christmas programs. They are designed to better the lives of the citizens of those countries first before their partners. That's it. What you have now, even though you're talking about Trump appointing 3 Nigerian descents.
Biden, of course, not Trump.
Biden, sorry, appointing 3 Nigerian descents. He appointed them not as Nigerians, he appointed them as Americans. Exactly. And they are forced to come in to fulfill American citizens' wishes, not first Nigeria. And there is something we need to understand about American foreign policy, especially beginning from the time of Barack Obama. Remember, Obama, on assumption of office in 2009, began to tour some African countries, telling them that time had come when they should do away with the blame game about the West being responsible for their underdevelopment and their problems. And the time had come for them to begin to look at issues of partnership beyond foreign aid. And that was how, specifically with Nigeria, they initiated what they called Nigeria-US Binational Commission. And that commission was founded on some pillars which were to thrive under partnership and not foreign aid. Even though Biden is coming, We are not looking at where Biden will begin to extend American hands as a Father Christmas. He will only extend American hands to Nigerians as a partner. And as a partner, there must be something you must be bringing on board. A partner must bring something for the co-partner to also augment what you have brought, and both parties will benefit equally. That's the idea. But if we fail to put our house in order, waiting for America to continue to dish out his own part of the bargain, no, it is not going to do it. It will first of all be, I said, okay, I will help you in 1, 2, 3, when you must have done 1, 2, 3. If I have not done 1, 2, 3, the implication is that you should not expect my help. For my help is founded upon what you have done. And that's the whole idea of partnership. And that's how they begin to see it. Because they have, over the years, considered that their aid towards Africa, or Nigeria in particular, in most cases, have been embezzled, riddled in corruption. And they think, no, this is not achieving the desired end. We brought programs aimed at bettering the life of certain people. Unfortunately, it doesn't even get to such people. Therefore, it is the time to review. We must see evidence that you are serious about what we are coming to do, such that if we say we want to cooperate in certain areas, like the U.S. Binational Commission that I talked about, which thrived on cooperation, especially security cooperation, economic growth and development, governance, democracy, and all whatnot, you begin to look at that Nigeria has a stake, a game to play, which when you play it, before we now play this other game, the idea is for it to end at the table of win-win. So we should not expect Biden coming to perform magic. The only problem that we saw in America under Trump is that we appeared to see a man, or to have seen a man who had no regard for some African leaders. Recall that when he finished having a meeting with Buhari sometime in 2018, he openly said, as captured by the Financial Times, that he wouldn't want to meet with such a lifeless human being next time. You just see a man who opens his mouth anyhow and talks anyhow, irrespective of what to think. So that's the only aspect that I think is coming to play. There will be some sort of respect for African leaders, but not that such respect will translate into America emptying their purse in African environment or continent, or Nigeria as a country, because it is a Democrat, Biden, ruling. Somebody who understands the politics and who has been in the system since 1973 as a senator and as vice president from 2009. And now as American president-elect that will soon be sworn in on 20th of January. So we should understand that American foreign policy is institutionalized. It is not a haphazard approach like it's always done in Nigeria, where it is defined by the idiosyncrasies of the individual. Although idiosyncrasies of the individual can creep in any foreign policy, but it will not significantly undercut the foundation already built by the institutions. So that's what I expect.
Dr. Ogweze, there are those who also think, for instance, that the 2020 campaigns in the United States and the election itself were very unique, all because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, for instance, the usual debates that were focused on foreign policy and all of that did not take place. And we didn't see or hear any of the two major candidates, Trump and Biden at that time, speak or say anything about Africa during their campaigns. Now, these are issues that usually would come up during the campaigns. Now, following from that, many think that perhaps Africa really does not feature in the thinking and in the reckoning of any American president or presidential candidate. And this might not be any different.
Thank you very much. That's why I said it is America first. America under Trump was a terrible experience for majority of them and for many of the world leaders. Therefore, it shouldn't be a surprise that, of course, John, with COVID-19, there was no such presidential debate. But American Trump factor is a very serious issue that was of concern to Americans. And for anybody coming to, remember I told you, he's first coming to rule America. before talking about what he will extend to other world bodies or African continents. And you now begin to understand that the critical factor was, how do we remove Trump? That's the whole idea. And Trump was as well determined. If you follow Trump's trajectory, especially in the build-up to this 2020 to the 2020 presidential election, you will discover that Trump was just a character. And to me, he typically fits into third world politicians. He can survive even in Nigerian politics, because that's exactly the character of Nigerian politicians. And they simply underrated that there are certain things Trump could not do, because he's an American president, because he's an American, because American institutions are strong. But we've seen over the years that Trump, even in the center of these strong institutions, Trump was able to do a whole lot of things. But the strong institutions were also able to teach him a lesson, and that was why he was able to secure his second term bid. So it is not surprising that African affairs didn't significantly feature, if at all, in US presidential campaigns, because the critical issue was how, first of all, for Trump, we were already known about Trump. Therefore, Trump told you it is America for Americans. I want to make America great. And he didn't go about the fight in a way that you may begin to talk. And for the Democrats, the issue was, how do we take away this man out of office? Taking away this man out of office will not be founded upon what we'll do for Africa, what we'll do for Nigerians. No. First of all, what will you do to Americans? How will you restore the dignity of America in the face of damage done to the country by this man called Trump? Therefore, this is the central point. You first of all look for different objects that will help you gain the power before you begin to talk about what you will do with the power. Because African affairs didn't feature in the campaign processes, does not also mean that nothing will be done for Africa. Like I said, anything that will be to Africa, of course, since Obama, it is no longer politics as usual or the usual game. It is now about partnership. You must also demonstrate to us that you are able to do this, and then we will be able to support you with this to make the system stable.
All right, thank you so much. Stay with us, Dr. Ogweze. Chris, let me come to you. Now, Biden has promised a return to multilateralism in international relations, in U.S. relations with other countries of the world. How is that likely to impact on Africa?
I expected that. In fact, that was the first thing I felt he was going to rejig, that policy of multilateralism. I was going to look at it again. And then, apart from that, I will expect that he's probably going to continue with other, U.S.-Africa policy agenda. Things like the YALE, the Young African Leaders Initiative that Obama started, that Trump didn't, so much push for. And maybe
in fact, he jettisoned it almost completely.
Yes, he did. So I actually expected that if Biden should get the opportunity, that definitely he's going to reject that. And I feel that's one of the biggest political capital that worked against Trump, particularly on the international scene. And nobody, even Americans themselves, we are not in support of that policy at all. But I will always choose to look, because we are discussing U.S.-Africa policy, how Biden, administration is going to impact on Africa. I will always choose for us to look beyond Trump in this whole, consideration. You see Sithitism and, strong men leaders has been a standing U.S. policy over time. And Trump, a lot of people felt Trump didn't show so much of interest and all this in maybe retweaking. It's been there. It transcends, you know, Trump administration, even Obama administration. Remember in 2009 when Obama came to Ghana, he promised that he was going to give his support and the U.S. is going to do something about our strong institution. That they believe what we need in Africa is actually strong institution and not strong men. But unfortunately, he did nothing. And he left. So for me, really, our concentration should be, because if we get it right at that level of governance, probably the economy and every other thing we are talking about here will fall in place. And I would want to see an American leadership that will come and stand his ground. Not these ones that are embodying systematism and autocratization in Africa, with people doing whatever they like, and at the time you begin to wonder if we actually have democracy in Africa. So I would prefer to see a leadership in the White House that will come and stand his ground and say, no, because that is, you see, democracy is at the root of US African foreign policy. Even Biden acknowledged that he wants to, democratize, Africa. And these are things that should go beyond rhetorics. So people like me will want to see a leadership that will come and stand their ground and move into work and see that the biggest problem of democracy in Africa, which is systematism, is completely eradicated.
So that's one area where we can begin to hold Biden or the Biden administration to some accountability, because he has pronounced it. He has said democratization of Africa and African institutions will be a priority for him.
Yes, we can't hold him accountable, but we would like to see what plays out, and we would like to see how he intends. Because I always play back to the role he played, even though so much of, not so much was expected of him as a vice president. But again, that was administration where he played a very principal role. So if we have to look at that and use it as a checklist, then a lot of people will not want to expect so much about that in this present era. So, but give and take, like one of the panelists said, it's always good to give people benefit of doubt and to see what new he's going to bring to the table, particularly concerning this issue, because it's a teething problem in Africa. We just had Uganda election not quite long. And
just on Thursday.
Yes. And then we saw, that is in no way democracy at all. What we saw in Uganda is what I would prefer to call manimal democracy, with some features of man and that of animal. Because people are challenging you, people are contesting for election, then you think they don't deserve to live. You will unleash all manner of things on them to have them killed and all that. And civilians are losing their life and all that. And then we have people who are supposedly supposed to, these things doesn't still look troubling to them. People who are supposed to talk, who are supposed to condemn some of these things, they are not talking. Nobody is talking. And they are having their way. So if at all there are things that most Africans will expect, the Biden administration to look into once again and maybe rethink on a way forward, it is this dictatorial, this systematism that is ravaging Africa, that is killing everything in Africa as it is.
Prof, what would you expect Africans to bring to the table? Because here we're talking now about a possible policy of partnership and not just the handouts that we as Africans expect or used to get from the Western world. Here the US seems to be saying, look, it is partnership. Now, under Clinton, his policy was built on the African Growth and Opportunities Act, which was AGOA. Then, of course, George W. Bush came with the emergency plan for AIDS relief. And Obama came with Power Africa and the Young Africa's Initiative program. Trump, as bad as Africans think it was, came with the Prosper Africa program, which sought to double, two-way trade between the U.S. and Africa. But here we are with the Biden administration. What are we bringing as Africans to the table in partnership and getting some more attention that we have been getting?
One is integrity. Two, less corruption. Because it's observed by the panelists. Even the aids they are giving us, those who are giving us have not seen reasonable thing we have done with it. It has entered private hands and private pockets. If America want to support us in democracy, in democratization, American will not bring its citizens to come and join parties. It is we that will join the parties and campaign, knowledge, conviction. According to an adage, Rome is not built in a day. It may take decades of struggle before we can attain what we are looking for. But consistency, somebody struggled today as a youth, form a youth party, for instance. If he did not win election by 2023, you will see him that is declaring for APC or PDP. He will not be consistent. Perseverance. Everybody knew what Mandela suffered in South Africa, just for independence, just to make sure that South Africa is being ruled by Africans, not Afrikaners. It took time. How many of us can suffer today to be in prison for 5 years? Mandela was there for 27 years. Perseverance, endurance, honesty, integrity, consistency. We believe in something, we move along with it. Not that, for example, if America pump money into some of us to campaign that we want a good party, an honest party, corrupt-free, and so on and so forth. By the time you go into that, you will see some of the resources have been bastardized by some individual. Even some individual in the group, like SDP election was cancelled in 1993. Before you know it, party chairman is declaring, is backing out. Before you know it, the vice president is backing out. This is a struggle that you suffer for. And you won the election. You can't even stand for 2-3 years by that ideology what you suffered for. Unless we change our attitude towards life. Our love for money is too high. We can be bought, our conscience can be bought overnight. People are proud of themselves. There was a kind of news when Obama came down after 8 years that he couldn't go to his personal house because it's not completed. And he went to a rent. Unless we are able to attain those character, outlook, that not everything money, not everything flamboyancy, and so on and so forth. By the time we are still saying that, oh, this is what I must eat, this is what I must live, everybody want to live in Asokoro, everybody want to live in Maitaba. Nobody want to live in Mayaya, Mararaba, because they are in government. And there's no way your salary cannot make you. Definitely it will flitter with the resources of the public. So integrity, perseverance, we need to persevere. Majority of us who want to struggle and make Nigeria to change is by mouth. And talk is cheapest thing we have in life. We need to be committed. We suffer. We may jealous years upon year. With consistency, we are still what we are. At the end of the day, no matter how long it is, truth will always prevail over lies. Light will prevail over darkness. But people to stand by it, they are very few. And may I do say it, it is with the elites. Academic, political, religious, business, economic elites. We are the one to move this country out of problem. And we are not ready because we fall along the line. We bastardize, we pollute everything that we are involved in. We put everything on the scale of who we get what and what and what. Not that to be a member and be carrying chair is part of the commitment. Consistency. Mandela was not knowing ACN. It was a growth that brought him to that level. He was an ordinary member. And he was there. Atlantis ACN was formed in 1920 something. ANC, sorry. Yeah. Was formed in 1920 something. And he was consistent following. How many of us will leave PDP today and go to APC tomorrow? The next time we come from PDP again and come, and people will be clapping for us and vote for us? Without integrity, consistency, perseverance, we cannot change this country.
All right.
We cannot change Africa.
All right. Dr. Ogweze, let me ask you, against the backdrop of U.S. strategic interests in Africa. Of course, those interests vary from region to region. From the west to the central to North Africa and to the East Africa, the interests vary. But they seem to have a common line running through all of them. Against that backdrop, what do you think that Africans, maybe acting through the instrumentality of the AU, can then bring to the table with the incoming administration and make the best of a relationship?
That's good. I've said it before, that nobody will take any country or continent serious until such country or continent puts his house in order. I expect AU to put his house in order. How does it put his house in order? You know, when it was OAU, the founding principle was principle of non-interference in internal matters of member states. Time has long gone about that. It is high time AU begins to look at what happens within its member states. Let me tell you, Nigeria, for example, why the US is still considering Nigeria for one thing or the other is because any implosion in Nigeria will affect not just the West African sub-region, but also within the Sahel and even the whole Africa. Therefore, they will always look for a way of how do we manage this. Beyond the external body looking towards this direction, it should be the responsibility of AU to rise beyond speeches, to rise beyond lip service, and begin to address issues as they are. Let me give you an example. AU has a stand on what is happening in Western Sahara. That's the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. It has a stand on it. Where is the willpower to implement the stand? AU has various protocols, resolutions on good governance, democracy, accountability, and the rest of them. Yes, these things exist in documents. How are they carried beyond the papers? How are they addressed empirically, on ground? So these are the issues that we must begin to look at. If we come to the issue of security, which is a common African problem, it's a global issue, but which is quite endemic in Africa. How have we gone beyond what we have in papers as strategies in addressing the issues on ground? Of course, virtually all the member states draw the strength of their policies, programs on some of these issues from these world governing bodies. Nigeria, for instance, has what it calls National Counterterrorism Strategy, which derives from the United Nations Global Counterterrorism Strategy of 2006 down to African Union Counterterrorism Framework to develop that strategy. Very beautiful strategy, which was also reviewed in a very beautiful form. But how has it been implemented beyond the paper content? These are the issues that I think Africa should be concerned about, and OAU as a body should be concerned about. How do we move beyond speeches? How do we move beyond what we'll document to following them up? If you come to Nigeria, for instance, we look at when we talk about institutions. I will just take one example. We have been talking about the service chiefs. I'm not agreeing whether they have performed or not performed. It is for the public to decide whether they have performed. But my concern is that you appoint service chiefs, they pass through the National Assembly for confirmation, they are confirmed, which means there is a relationship in the approach. There is a relationship in both in appointment and what they do. And the implication is that all the arms are equal partners in this approach, in this appointment. In the event that one institution as a whole representing the whole Nigeria now say, we are no longer convinced that carried it. Why don't we look for a new approach? It's an institution saying this, to be precise, the National Assembly.
Okay.
And then one organ of the government will now tell you, I'm still looking into it. Perchance, you have information this one doesn't have. I'm not whether these people have. So when you see things like this, you simply begin to take the institutions as jokes. And that's how they act across Africa.
Dr.
So
Gweze, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Your network is fluctuating so badly there. But thank you for your contributions. Chris, let's 60 seconds each. Let's quickly sum up this. What do you consider will be the major challenge for the Biden administration as far as his African policy is concerned?
Sincerity. He needs to be very, very sincere about what he intends to achieve in Africa. We have a leadership in Africa that is characterized by a lot of insincerity. And most times they fall into this trap because of what they intend to gain from here. But I think if he decides to be very sincere about what he intends to achieve, then of course he will do well, particularly with respect to our relationship with them. You know. So I think sincerity is one. And I think he also needs to, he has started building consensus as a leader. He has made appointments from almost every area. And that's a very good way to start. You know, a lot of people believe African Americans played a very, big role in their emergence. You know, and then he has also started paying them back. And he promised he wasn't going to let them down during his victory speech. And then he has started on a very good note. And I think he has made appointments across board. So I think it's a very good way to start. But very important, very, very important. I think he really needs to show high level of sincerity about their relationship with Africa.
In foreign policy, domestic policy influences foreign policy. Africa cannot get a good foreign policy or an advantage from any country unless we check our domestic policy and make it up to standard. If you do that, all other things will fall in line. Our domestic policy needs to be checked properly and put in line.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Professor Kama Bello is a professor of political science and international relations at the National Open University of Nigeria here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
Chris Ayaun is the Executive Director, Global Advocacy for African Affairs. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
And of course, we also had Dr. Michael Ugweze. He is a lecturer. He teaches political science at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Thank you so much, Dr. Ugweze, for your time. And to you, the viewer there, we want to thank you immensely for investing your time with us. Please check all our social media platforms. And of course, you can watch this anytime, anywhere, wherever you are in the world. My name is Imonia Marere. Bye for now.